Hello and welcome back to Seconds Out. My name is Eamon Khan, joined today by top promoter Dmitry Salita. Dmitry, good to see you after a long time. How's life?
Good to see you as well. Look forward to coming back to the UK sometime soon, I hope.
Hopefully see you soon. Well, you're out and about and you're making some big moves as well too. I've seen recently, of course, that Michelle Rivera has joined Salita Promotions, talking about getting the closing the signing on Michelle Rivera.
Yes, very excited about his potential this year. Was planning for him to fight Ryan Garcia, but now Ryan Garcia seems to be in a bit of a mess. Devin Haney, Ruiz Prograis, Xavier Matias, I feel that he fits with either one of those guys. And if those big fights do not happen, we plan to keep him busy with our Big Time Boxing USA series. And he's currently back home, but coming here in the next few weeks, and we'll plan out his next big fight.
We'll talk about Ryan Garcia later on in the interview, but you mentioned there the Big Time Boxing USA cards featuring on DAZN. You've had a couple of these now leading into the next one, 23rd of May, headlined by Jermaine Franklin. Talk to me about this next card coming up and also delivering the good nights back to the area as well too with these cards.
Yeah, so our goal is with Big Time Boxing USA is to be the premier talent development platform in the United States. Kind of pick up where Showbox left off, and we've picked up some of the Showtime talent like Raul Marquez, who did the Showbox events, and we'll be making an announcement next week about another significant addition to the talent team for the May 23rd show. So in the main event is Jermaine Franklin, who British boxing fan knows through his battles with Dylan White and Anthony Joshua. In the co-main event is Joshua Pagan, U.S. national amateur champion, 9-0 as a professional. He's fighting a tough fight. He's 9-0, fighting an opponent who's 13-0. And Dabal Smith, known as the next, heralded to be the next Jaimie Hearns from Detroit, from the Croc Boxing Gym. Also staying busy and active, and looking for the boxing community to see him and to comment on his skills. Hussam El Mashadi, another prospect from this area, will be in action. So excited about the event, excited about developing and growing boxing in this area, and continuing to make things happen in the United States.
Well, Jermaine specifically, do you feel like this win will hopefully get him set up for a big fight, potentially a fight over in Saudi, getting into that heavyweight mix right now?
Yeah, so we've had some discussions for Jermaine to fight various heavyweights. He's coming off a good win. And I believe that him staying busy and him staying active and the boxing community kind of keeping their tabs on him and obviously looking impressive will definitely put him in the conversation with those big fights. I want him to fight Joseph Parker, him now being WBO world champion. I really believe that Jermaine deserves a big opportunity, and certainly a world title shot would be that. And it's such a great time for heavyweight boxing when the best are fighting the best, and promoters working with each other, making the biggest and the best fights happen. That's what boxing needs, and I'm very grateful for the Riyadh Season Initiative. I think it's great for the sport of boxing, and they're coming to the United States in August. I heard they're going to the UK in September. So it's great that not only are these big fights happening in Riyadh, but they're happening really in the other big centers of boxing like the United States and the UK.
Yeah, as a promoter in the US, what's your thoughts on this Riyadh season and the Saudi cards kind of coming over now into the territories of the UK and the USA?
I think it's great for boxing. I mean, this fight on August 3rd is one of the best match fight cards I've seen in a long time. I mean, just all kind of 50, 60, 40 fights, 50, 55, 60, 40 fights. I mean, you can pick the winner on each side. And, if it's a champion, an A side, he has a very, very tough test against them. This feels like 5 or 6 HBO Championship boxing main events all piled into one card. It feels it's a great card, and as a boxing fan, I'm very excited to see it. And as a promoter, I'm happy to be involved with it as well, with Jarrell Miller fighting Andy Ruiz. That's an interesting fight. Terence Crawford, pound for pound #1 in the world, fighting a tough fight and a good fight. I mean, there's just so much talent. Victor Ortiz fighting Tim Tszyu, great fight. so much talent on that card, and it's great for the sport of boxing. And I really believe, one of the best promo videos I saw was Eddie Hearn versus Frank Warren, where they sit down and chop it up. I mean, so well produced. It's just great, and that's what boxing needs. Boxing needs storytelling, and it's great that His Excellency took it upon himself to take this great responsibility and to tell the story of boxing. And I love what I'm seeing. We was in Riyadh on December 23rd. Great show. Just had a great time, great hospitality, and it's good to see again that it's coming here to the United States.
Speaking of Jarrell, was there ever the possibility that the fight with Andy Ruiz might happen earlier in his career? I remember seeing a face-off between the two of them, and they've since become good friends, and now they're pitted against each other, and they're happy to put that to the side for now. But was it ever close in the past?
Not really, no. Jarrell and Andy Ruiz met in Detroit on one of our Detroit Brawl shows. This was like 7 years ago. Andy Ruiz was fighting here in the main event, and we flew Jarrell just to kind of sit ringside and check stuff out. But they've had so at that time, which was before both of them kind of elevated to the position they're in now, they called each other out. But after that, there has not been really any real discussion about them fighting. And then obviously Jarrell was supposed to fight Anthony Joshua, and Andy Ruiz rolled in and scored a big upset. So there is, while they're friendly, there is bad blood, regarding that, or really, Jarrell believes that victory belonged to him, and really his best way to reverse the clock is to beat Andy Ruiz, and I think that he can. And if he gets himself in shape and in good condition, I believe that with a win, he puts himself right back in the mix to fight Anthony Joshua and the other big names in the division.
Where are you with Jarrell in terms of your relationship with him? He took a bit of a smaller swipe at you this time around at the press conference. You weren't there present. Have you smoothed things over with Jarrell? Is it just a bit of tongue-in-cheek at this point, or what is the situation?
No, Jarrell called me yesterday, and he called me a couple of days before the press conference. And it's for a very, as far as I can remember, really, since Jarrell started to progress, it's been a very up and down relationship, all based on Jarrell's mood, really. And the stuff that he says, I saw that Oscar filed a suit against Canelo about some of the things he said. So obviously I don't know about the details of that situation, but I know the details of this situation, and the stuff that Jarrell is saying is absolutely not true. The judgment that was awarded to us has been 5 years or 4 years with the judge, and Jarrell has had some of the best lawyers in the industry represent him, and they've either bowed out or felt that he had no case. And Jarrell has done some damaging things, and saying all this untruthful stuff in public is damaging. And I've been with Jarrell since his second professional fight, and I've gotten him from a club level show to a fight in Madison Square Garden versus Anthony Joshua for a career high payday. And through that, after failing the drug test and then failing the drug test again after we did a deal with ESPN and Top Rank, brought him back, got him this fight with Daniel Dubois. The judgment happened a couple of weeks before the fight and whatever, and the court made its ruling, whatever it was. And I told Jarrell, don't worry about it. Let's sit down after the fight and work things out. And after the fight in Riyadh, Jarrell came up to me and we had a great conversation, and he was remorseful about the things that he said. And I appreciated it. Then came back to the United States, and then a week or so afterwards, he had that incident with the assault with the police, with the car, and his family called me, and we did what we can to kind of help him in that situation. And then things were smooth for a while, and then he called me before the press conference, and we had a good conversation. And then at the press conference, he says this stuff that's like it's not truth, it's not. First of all, it's not true, and second of all, it's pretty terrible to say. And different fighters that I speak with, they're like, "Man, Dmitry, what happened with you and Jarrell? Why is he saying this? Why is he saying that?" And I called him and I said this to him. I said, "Jarrell, why are you saying this stuff, man? And again, he's up and down, and sometimes he says, "Okay, I shouldn't have said it. I'm sorry," and other times he curses at me, and we get into a verbal boxing match. But it is what it is. I feel very good about the work that I did with Jarrell and this fight with Andy Ruiz, we've been working on, and it came to fruition again. A significant payday for him, second career highest payday. After fight versus Daniel Dubois, which he could have won. And I believe that this time around, regardless of our differences, he's going to get himself in shape, and he understands how important this fight is to his career, and he will do what he needs to do. And I believe that he has every chance to be victorious and to get himself back on the map as and not back on the map, but have him live up to his potential of being a good fighter in a ring, in addition to being a great personality. Outside of him talking smack about me. But
going back to the boxing talk you mentioned there about the 5v5 and that element of it, just as a promoter, I would like to get your take on which of the promoters you feel will come out on top in those 5 versus 5 matchups. Do you feel that Eddie has the edge here, or Frank, his team might come out with the win?
I think it's pretty evenly matched, and I'm not sure. It's those are all really good fights. Zhang versus Wilder is a great fight. I don't know about the relationship of Wilder and Eddie. I know that they had to work together for this fight because of the theme of the show. But I think that Malik Scott overall did a great job with Deontay Wilder. And sometimes a fighter gets comfortable. Like Marvin Hagler used to say, it's hard to wake up in silk pajamas to do road work at 6 a.m. And that's the truth, because we're all human beings, and in boxing, you fight to make it out of your situation, and then you make some money and you buy yourself a nice house and a nice car and 3 cars and 5 cars and whatever, and you're the champ, and that hunger kind of dies down. That's why Floyd Mayweather is as incredible as he is and is such a great fighter, because he was able to keep that consistency throughout his career, and other great fighters that have been able to be superstars and still perform in the ring. So I think Deontay Wilder had a bit of a mental lapse in that way, and it's good for him. I mean, like as an individual, it's great that he found a happy place, and he's good, hopefully, financially and with all the things happening in his life, and he seems to be very positive and very happy. A much different demeanor than he had coming up, but for him to be successful in the ring, he's going to need to find that. That fire once again, to be successful and to be at the top of his game. And I think that Zhang is a great opponent for him, because he's there to be hit, doesn't stay too busy, we'll see. But at the same time, he's a big puncher, and I think he's a bigger puncher than Parker, so there's that risk. Some of the other fights I don't know enough about. Obviously, Bivol and Bitter Beef, although it's not part of the 5-5, is a very interesting fight. I'm not sure who to pick. It's a great fight. Ali Ismailov is the light heavyweight that I represent, and Juan Carrillo, 2 guys in line for the winner and or the loser of that fight. So I'm very interested in that fight as a fan, and obviously as someone that's involved in the division.
We talked about your relationship with Jarrell, and you mentioned about what's going on between De La Hoya and Canelo. I just wonder what you thought about seeing Oscar De La Hoya take the podium the other day and kind of read out that statement, which really kind of brought the anger out of Canelo, and the back and forth since then, and kind of the relationship there that's always kind of bubbled up to the surface in the past.
Right. So, I mean, Oscar may be playing with Canelo's mind, because Munguia is his guy, so he does want to arouse some emotion to make him, lose focus. So there may be some thought with that, but I don't know enough about the situation to to really comment on it. I think that Canelo is the biggest star in boxing right now. Although Ryan Garcia, before the drug test, was was making waves, and big win for Golden Boy and big win for Oscar. And I was at that fight at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. Packed crowd, just a very electric feeling, and a great fight. So that night of boxing was good for the sport of boxing, minus the positive drug test. As a fan, that obviously adds to the fight. I feel like there's more interest in the fight now. More people are writing about it. More people are talking about it. And Oscar, being a great fighter that he was, is still a big name in the sport of boxing. So when he says things that are controversial or interesting, the media takes notice, and that's certainly someone that's a superstar like Canelo. Both of them, getting into it is from a media point of view is a kind of a match made in heaven for promoting the fight. And I think even though they may have their differences, I think they're both aligned on the fact that this it should be a great pay-per-view, and I think that scuffle added to the interest. What's interesting is that Oscar is not the promoter of the event. PBC and Heyman is the promoter of the event, and with that scuffle, Oscar kind of put the spotlight back on himself. And I'm coming off of that victory of Ryan Garcia. Again, minus the drug test, I think he's in pretty good position just in terms of being the promoter in the United States. It's a very peculiar time in boxing in the United States now. In the UK, Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn are very strong, and they're competing with each other, and they're coming together in a way. And there's also, Ben with Sky. So so there's three kind of big guys that are relatively young and and out to get it. In the United States, it's an interesting time with HBO and Showtime being out of the boxing business, and Bob Arum being older, and Heyman not really being in the public eye, giving interviews. Eddie has emerged as the guy, and Oscar now with the win of Ryan Garcia, and there's and they're on the same network. There's no network to compete against, so it's an interesting time, and I believe that it's a time of opportunity, and new things and new players will pop up here shortly.
Yeah, because that brings me on to that, because they did the press conference, and you had a representative there for Sleep Promotions as well, but it seemed okay between Eddie and Oscar then, but afterwards Oscar put out a tweet and said no other promoter is coming to my country and is going to do what I and that doesn't to paraphrase that, but essentially he kind of didn't really welcome Eddie, I guess, there. So but Eddie seems to maybe look like the lead promoter in that sense for that card. So do you feel there's that rivalry between both Eddie and Oscar will continue to go forward, and there'll be a battle between those two over in the US?
So no, Oscar was the lead promoter for the card at the Barclays Center for the Ryan Garcia card.
I mean for Crawford Madrimov.
Oh, from Crawford Madrimov. Yeah, I'm not sure actually. I think again it's a lot of promoters come together, and I think that Eddie may be the promoter just in terms of running logistics, but I don't think it's his event. I think the event is of the Riyadh season. It's a Riyadh season event. I'm not sure of what the logistics are. I know that seems to be the press conference ran in a way that the UK press conferences run, where there's a mediator, and it wasn't Eddie and it wasn't Oscar. Obviously, Oscar wasn't even at the press conference. So, but Eddie has a lot to do with that show than Oscar does. Yeah, let me tell you, competition is good, in my opinion, but you have to be able to make fights and to have a relationship to make big things happen. So as long as the personal beef doesn't impede on that, then it's all good.
Well, we have had some, great events, as you mentioned here, with none so bigger than the last couple of weeks than Haney Garcia. But that's now turned to another shockwave in the form of the breaking news that Ryan Garcia is testing positive for, one substance of ostarine and then another substance which needs further testing. I just wonder how you feel with that knowledge of the fight and how you feel it kind of affects things going forward.
I think it's terrible. I think it's terrible when any fighter fails the drug test. Certainly, when someone in such a premier position fails the drug test, it's absolutely terrible for the sport of boxing and gives it another black eye. And I thought Ryan Garcia put on a great performance, but it's significantly diminished because when you take drugs, you're Superman, and you're fighting, someone who doesn't have that energy in his system. So it's not fair to judge the fight because it's objectively happened with a significant advantage and a disadvantage. So I'm very sad as a boxing fan for something like that to happen, and hopefully the right things happen going forward in terms of reversing that decision and taking and really getting to the bottom of how this happened. And we as a boxing community have to take strong measures against the drug cheaters, because there's boxing, unlike other sports, people are putting their life on the line, and it's physical, and there's no room for that.
Lastly, Dmitry, we are aware that Savannah Marshall is going to be making her PFL debut in the cage very shortly. There's that natural rivalry between the two, and Claressa Shields as well, who I'm sure will be keeping a keen eye while she's writing her latest big hitting rap song. She'll also be looking at Savannah Marshall's debut in the ring. First of all, most likely, if Savannah Marshall comes through this fight and maybe a few others, that the two will meet in PFL soon. And what's the latest with Claressa Shields and her return to any form of combat action?
So Claressa and Savannah are obviously natural rivals. If they play chess, it'll be interesting. But I believe that a boxing rematch is in their future. It's one of the biggest. It's one of the biggest fights to be made in boxing, the biggest fight in women's boxing, in my opinion. And we'll be announcing some big news for Claressa, some historic news for Claressa in the coming weeks.
Okay, well, we look forward to that news, Dmitry. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. Good to speak to you again. Thanks for speaking to Seconds Out. We'll catch up very soon.